Phil Collins may have released the ultimate love songs adored by generations of fans, but sadly his own romances have all ended in divorce. Amidst the ongoing nasty legal battle with his third wife, Phil opened up about his 3 failed marriages that were riddled with affairs and betrayals that led to heartbreak and some of his biggest regrets. Most importantly, he confessed why he feels so disappointed in himself for not being able to make his marriages work. Phil Collins' first marriage was to the former actress Andrea. The pair met when they were both just 11 years old in drama class. Over a decade later, the couple reconnected and soon a romance blossomed. Phil and Andrea married in 1975, just as his career as a musician was beginning to gain traction. The couple went on to adopt a daughter, Jolie, and in 1976, Andrea gave birth to their first biological child, a son they named Simon. Over the next few years, Phil was often away from home, touring with his rock band Genesis, leaving Andrea to take care of their 2 children. Phil's absence left Andrea feeling alone and overwhelmed by having to be the sole parent. As a way to cope with the loneliness while Collins was away on tour, Andrea sought comfort in the arms of another man, Michael Burberry, the painter and decorator of their new country house. As soon as the affair began, Andrea knew that she had made a dreadful mistake. She confessed the affair to Phil and he returned home as soon as he had some time off. At first, Phil did his best to be understanding and supportive. Unfortunately, with the marriage already under strain because of his constant absence, the couple was unsure of how to approach things. In order to try and figure things out, Andrea and Phil took some time apart. The musician turned to music to help process his heartbreak and betrayal. He wrote the tortured, deeply personal songs that became his trademark. Some of the lyrics like, "If you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand," were clearly aimed at Andrea. Meanwhile, his wife did her best to try and forgive herself. However, she knew that the affair happened as a result of desperation, a symptom of much deeper problems in their marriage. Andrea was hurt by how Phil publicized their marital problems in his music, essentially letting the world know what was happening behind closed doors. She confessed, "I felt particularly insulted. He should have kept it to himself, especially since he didn't take any responsibility. That hurt me more than anything." She had even urged Phil to stop airing their dirty laundry in public, and he responded by saying, "I'm allowed to do whatever I want. It's called artistic license." Despite the obvious difficulties in their marriage, Phil continued to put his career first.
Well, the album was really a result of a sort of a personal tidal wave, really. I got divorced and I had a couple of kids, and I spent a lot of time on my own.
Collins and Andrea did their best to rekindle what was left of their marriage, but by then it seemed like it was already too late.
When I went down the aisle for the first time, I fully hoped and expected that I would be, with that person for forever.
The musician went off for yet another one of his tours, and instead of joining him, she chose to stay behind with the children. Andrea recalled, "Maybe I should have gone. There was a lot at stake, really, and while he was on tour, he met Jill." Phil and Andrea divorced in 1980 after 5 years of marriage, not long after he met 24-year-old Jill Tavelman. The couple got married in 1984. Collins seemed completely overjoyed at the ceremony and even cried during the service. In 1989, they welcomed their daughter Lily Collins, and things in their marriage only seemed to be getting better. When Phil went on tour, Jill was right by his side, and they made sure to do everything they could to keep their family together. Collins reciprocated by being attentive and supportive, something he wasn't able to do for Andrea. His second marriage seemed to be everything that his first wasn't. Perhaps it was the fact that Phil wanted to try and do things differently. However, the couple soon began to realize that they had little in common other than their attraction for one another. Phil and Jill started to grow distant over their different interests. Collins admitted, "More and more things were starting to bother me about the person I was living with." The musician felt as though all the reasons he was married to Jill were gradually being lost, adding, there were signs that maybe it wasn't as special or wonderful as it used to be. By 1992, Phil crossed paths with an old flame, actress Lavinia Lang. In a strange turn of events, Andrea, who had been friends with Lavinia from school, was the one who suggested that she go to one of Phil's concerts and arranged for her to get a backstage pass. At the time, Lavinia was married to a musician, Brett Hudson. However, when she arrived at Collins' concert, she came on her own. Since Jill was on tour with Collins, he and Lavinia did not get much time alone together. However, they did manage to steal a quick kiss when no one was looking. After that, the pair stayed secretly in touch by sending letters and hushed late-night phone calls. Later that summer, Lang spent 6 weeks in England, and Collins snuck away for several romantic evenings together. Their affair was brief, and Lavinia eventually returned to her husband. It was at this moment that Phil knew his second marriage was going to end. He confessed his infidelity to Jill, who tried to be as understanding as she could of her husband's betrayal. Although the couple did their best to put this incident behind them, Phil knew that she never truly forgave him.
When my marriage broke up, my natural instinct was to go and, to save it.
The next 2 years were miserable and riddled with terrible shouting matches. Eventually, the couple decided that it would be best for them to go their separate ways. Phil and Jill divorced in 1996 after 12 years of marriage. In the musician's 2016 memoir, Not Dead Yet, he reflected on his turbulent romantic life. He admitted that he treated Jill terribly at the end of their relationship, which he reportedly ended via a fax message. "I was following my heart, but it turned out I was being a bit of a bastard," he confessed, adding, "I wish I hadn't cheated on my wife." Not long after his split from Jill, Phil went on a brief trip to Switzerland, where he was introduced to his interpreter, Orianne. The moment he saw her, Phil knew that something was in the air, again. The pair got married in 1999 and moved to a grand mansion in Switzerland. Over the next few years, they welcomed 2 sons, Nicholas and Matthew. Unfortunately, after just 9 years of marriage, the couple filed for divorce. Their breakup involved an incredibly hefty settlement on Phil's part, having to pay Orianne just over $30 million. At the time, it was the largest settlement in UK show business history.
I was just pissed off, I was angry.
At what?
Well, you go through a divorce and, sometimes it's like, please, I love you, don't hang up. And then it's like, well, you.
Yeah.
The musician opened up about his failed marriages in his autobiography and confessed he was saddened by his divorces because he has always been a romantic at heart. Phil and Orianne briefly rekindled their romance in 2016, and for a moment it seemed as though he had high hopes for their reunion.
I'm back with my third wife now, which people find strange, but to me, I think is wonderful. We got divorced. Yes, I paid her a lot of money, but that's divorce,
The musician explained that he and Orianne had realized it was a mistake, and now that they were back together, everything's great. Orianne moved into Phil's mansion in Miami, and it looked like true love had triumphed. She also seemed to be excited about their reunion, sharing, "Our separation was the wrong decision. I now call Phil my husband again." The couple even planned to get married for the second time, although Orianne explained, "We are so close that it does not actually make a difference if we are married or not." Unfortunately, after giving their love a second chance, things between Phil and Orianne crumbled once again. Collins had his third wife evicted from their Miami home after finding out that she had secretly gotten married to someone else. It was reported that Orianne had eloped in Las Vegas after a whirlwind romance with toy boy Thomas Bates in 2020. What followed was a nasty battle over Phil's possessions and finances as Orianne went on to auction off some of his most precious belongings. She also reportedly filed a claim ordering Collins to pay her a further $20 million and threatened to release false and embarrassing accusations about him unless he renegotiates their ongoing settlement.
When you've been married 3 times and you've got 5 kids, you don't live with them, and you've been divorced 3 times, you start to wonder whether it's you.
At the beginning of 2021, the 70-year-old singer announced that he would be retiring after over 4 decades as a musician. Along with the stress from his ongoing divorce battle, Phil has also struggled with a variety of health issues, including hearing loss, dislocated vertebrae, and nerve damage to his hands.
I retired. I kind of felt like I had to jam on the brakes and say, I'm stopping, because they're older now, but I had 2 young boys, and I wanted to be at home to be a dad, and I've never been able to do that for one reason or another.
It's heartbreaking to know how Phil struggled to make his marriages work, but he understands that he is also to blame for their failures. Marriages in Hollywood are notoriously difficult to sustain, and as an international rock star, it only made things harder for Collins. We hope that after all of his heartbreak, he's able to find peace and forgive himself for his mistakes. Be well and be kind.